Another super chat from Maureen Lorena sends a $50 donation. So shout out to you. We appreciate that.
So much.
It'll be doubled and donated to Shriners. She says, B, Napoleon Hill talks about the other self in his book, Outwitting the Devil. Have you talked to yours? How was your experience?
Yes, and so that's a really good question. The other self is the higher self, and the way you talk to that other self, if you've heard me say adversity introduces a man or woman to their higher self, the other self, it's through that. And this is why we have the Mogi challenge. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, when we kicked off the Mogi last week, it's a 12-hour challenge, we told everybody, I said, look, we are going to push you. We're going to have you do things that are hard, followed up by something that's even harder, followed up by something that's even more difficult. But we're not going to have you do anything that's impossible, but some things will feel impossible in that moment. And you could only achieve the hard, difficult challenges that we put in front of you when you enter that other room. Mm-hmm. And I said, the other room will present itself when you are mentally at a place where you're like, I can't go any further, and then you find that other gear. Yeah. And then all of a sudden that door appears, and you enter that other room, and that's where the higher self is. That's when the other self is. And this is why for years I do the Suckfest, right? I started doing the Suckfest 5 years ago, and I was like, all right, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm going to work all day, and then when the sun goes down, I'm going to start hiking all throughout the night. And I would hike an average of 34, 35 miles throughout the night until the sun would come up. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, I'm not going to train for it, so I know I'm going to get blisters. I know my knees, ankles, hips, everything's going to hurt. But it is in that high level of self-induced suffering that you meet the higher self. Right. And in fact, on Sundays is when I train legs for 2 hours, and then I'll go and hike the loop. Mm-hmm. Which is 3.2 miles of 4 massive hills going one way, and those same massive hills coming back the other way after a 2-hour leg training session. And I get after it on a leg training day. And so during the week, every Sunday, I have a micro Suckfest that I put myself through. And in that moment time of suffering, I start speaking to the other self. Like, you start having these epiphanies, like this higher voice, the higher self shows up, this brilliant, well-connected, tapped into source voice, inner self shows up and starts addressing you, and you talk to him, and you solve through your life's biggest problems that you were unable to solve through just sitting at a desk trying to take notes, like, how do I fix my life? Right. You will find the answers when you are in that other room talking to your higher other self. Right. But the higher other self only shows up over prolonged periods of adversity and suffering. Mm-hmm. That's just how our Creator has made us.